Hi, I'm Rich Brown for CNET. Today we're going to take a look at the 3D Systems Cube 3D printer. So this is the second 3D printer we reviewed here at CNET. The first one was the MakerBot Replicator, kind of an enthusiast, really hardcore hobbyist design system. This, though, is purely aimed at consumers. For everything from its design to the way you print objects on it, all the way down to the software, the system is really focused at being easy to use and kind of simplified. So if you're not familiar with 3D printing, the way it works is that this head deposits this plastic material down here, this print surface, prints up layer by layer until you get a solid object at the end of it. The object comes from a 3D design on your computer that you send to the printer to print out. So what we like about this printer in particular is that it's really easy to use. You can see here is a big drum that contains a neon green plastic that goes here into the head. The drum just slides in really easily. And then to load the plastic, you go to this menu and it walks you through the process of feeding the plastic in. Now, there's a couple ways to actually get a design from your computer to the cube. You can plug a USB key into the port here and have the design show up on the menu here, or you can connect via Wi-Fi, sending your plans from either your computer or your smartphone to the printer itself. So once you have those plans sent to the printer, you navigate through the menu, tell it to print, and then it begins the warm-up process. That takes about 10 minutes, and it's actually pretty quick compared to the Replicator. And what happens is this bed and this print head here get very hot. Now that heat is partially what keeps the object stable on the surface as the print progresses. Now what also helps objects stick is this magic cube glue, and that's unique to the cube. You lay that down on the surface, and that, along with the heat, makes sure the object stays put. And when the print is finished, you lift off the plate, and then set it in a tub of water in order to dissolve the glue. At that point, you can take your print off. So the cube is actually pretty unique in the landscape of consumer-priced 3D printers in that it is a really consumer-focused device. All the other printers out there, in the sub $2,000 price range at least, are really designed for hobbyists that like to get into the software, tweak all kinds of settings. You can even customize the hardware on those models if you want to. With this one, it's really about getting the design, sending it to the printer, and just cranking it out. So when you go to use the software for the cube, there's not a lot of settings you can play with. So that means it's simple to use, but it also means you can't correct if something goes wrong in a print. The other thing is that it feels like 3D Systems is trying to monetize you throughout the entire process of using the printer. Before you even turn it on, you have to register it at the Cubify.com website. And then when you're there, 3D Systems really pushes you to pay for plans on the website. You have to pay extra for the glue if you want to replace it. These cartridges are proprietary and they cost a little bit more per volume than you get from the other 3D printers. So as much as this is a consumer-focused 3D printer, they really do try to push you to consume. That said, the process of printing on the cube is a whole lot easier than with the Replicator. We never once had a print slip off from where it was supposed to be glued. We did get a little bit of lifting here and there, but nothing that totally damaged the output. So speaking of its output, we have a few objects that we've printed here on the cube. Some of them came out great, others less so. So this napkin holder and this little rook design both came with the printer, and they printed out perfectly. There's really no complaints about the way they look. Now the plans for these two objects, as well as the others you'll find on Cubify, are more or less designed to work very well with the cube. And that's great. The problem is you have to pay for them. Now there are plenty of designs out there that are free, but as you can see from this chair, they don't always come out as well as you want them to. Now this chair being messed up might be a product of the software and the way it interprets the design, but because the settings are really sparse in the 3D Systems software, there's not a lot you can do about it to try to improve it. You can take the design file to an outside 3D design program and try to tweak it, but your results are going to be guesswork until you actually print one that works. Now that's certainly not the case with every free file you'll find out there. In fact, we printed these devil horns from MakerBot's Thingiverse website. You can download the plans there, and that works fine. So 3D printing is still in its experimental stages for consumers. And while this one is certainly one of the more consumer-focused devices we've seen, it's also not cheap. It comes in at about $1,300. That's not including any extra glue, any extra plastic, or the designs you might want to buy for it. But because the free plans don't always work as well as you want them to, there's still a lot of guesswork and sort of hit-or-miss outcomes when you actually print. It's still an expensive hobby, and particularly with this printer, you can find yourself shelling out a lot of money in order to keep at it. But overall, this is probably the easiest to use device that we've seen so far. So I'm Rich Brown. This is the 3D Systems Cube 3D printer.